none of the deal. Okay, you got to figure when I started, I was working on my own car. And I'd help the boys take it to the racetrack and help them work on it while they was at the racetrack. So you had no time for any routine. Then as time progressed, the guys got a little bit more organized. I still didn't. I'd still work on the car at the shop, but didn't have to work on it at the racetrack because they had started having press. They wanted to interview you, so you didn't have time to do that. And then over a period of time, they got where they wouldn't let me work on them at the race shop, either one. So just over a period of time, my systems changed. But as far as me driving the car and doing that stuff, I didn't eat anything special. I didn't sleep anything special. I mean, we used to go some of those races, and we'd be up 28, 38 hours or something like that, get in the race car and race the car and then drive the thing back home. I mean, so it was just whatever was in front of you had to do. But as far as doing exercise, I always felt like if you was busy all the time, that was enough exercise. When we started racing, there's 40 drivers out there. 40 of them pretty good drivers, or they wouldn't have never made it that far. Right. Okay? So then we take those drivers and say, okay, who knows how to race? A lot of people can get around a racetrack by themselves, okay? And maybe do a better job than the guy that wins the race, okay? But you got a good racer, knowing how to race, when to race, who to race with, okay? And those people stay out of trouble and they wind up winning races. And at any given time in NASCAR or, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, now, there's just 5 or 6 of them that I look at that are racers. And then the racers wind up winning races. Good drivers and stuff sit on poles and, run fast laps during the race, but not a lot of them win races. Well, Petty's Garage is in Level Cross, North Carolina. It's right beside the house I grew up in. Part of the garage is the initial part that my dad started in 1949 when he first came to Cup racing. And then we just expanded the business and that. And then 7, 8 years ago, we moved Petty Enterprises. That was where Petty Enterprises is. Right. We moved it over to Mooresville, North Carolina. Right. Okay. Then all of a sudden, we still got race cars sitting around, got stuff. And so there was 3 or 4 of the guys that worked for me for 15 or 20 years. They didn't want to have to make the transition of driving back and forth every day. So I said, hey, I got some stuff here. We got a museum over here. We got a bunch of race cars that need to be upgraded and stuff. And I had a bunch of junk that I wanted rolling. So we just hired them and started in the back of the where Petty Enterprises is at. And then the first thing you know, people come to the museum. They see what you're doing. They want a car painted. They want a bigger engine. They want to change brakes or mufflers or whatever. And the first thing you know, we're in the garage business. The big deal was that when I decided to quit, then I started looking back, and I was equipment-wise with Petty Enterprises, and with the way I drove the car and stuff. If I'd have quit in 84, 85, then I wouldn't have had those next 7, 8 years where Petty Enterprises was kind of going downhill. Okay, sponsorship-wise, all this kind of stuff. Plus, at that particular time, you had people like Penske and Rouse and Hendricks and stuff. They were bringing in monetary deal and sponsors from outside because they could wheel and deal. Well, when we was running, you had, Petty Enterprises, Woods Boys, Bud Moore, Junior Johnson. We would go out and try to get sponsorship because we'd say, hey, here's our record. This is what we're winning. You know what I mean? But we couldn't get the attention, or we didn't have any situations to be able to put pressure on a sponsor. Where if you was like a Hendricks and stuff, and you go into DuPont and said, I want $20 million for my race car, and they say, okay, what are you going to give back? Well, I got 100 dealers. Everything in my shops will be DuPont stuff. It was a no-brainer for them. But we didn't have that deal. So I went downhill, but my car went downhill also. Okay, age caught up with me. I got more cautious. But the big deal and the reason I stayed as long as I did, driving a race car was my hobby. In other words, it wasn't work, it wasn't anything. When I got in that car, if Dale Inman, my crew chief, if he hollered at me, I just turned the radio off. I was by myself. I'd done my own thing, and so again, it was a hobby. I really enjoyed it, and I just had to sort of change things when I got out. Just took a long time to give up my hobby. I put it that way.